Hello and welcome to Heather and Hops. My name is Kat and I'm a knitter based in Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom. This is my little space on the internet where I have documented my knitting journey from day one through to now. We've cultivated a really wonderful little community over here. I've got quite a bit to share, I think. She says, questioning herself. Tuck that away. Today I'm wearing my ranunculus. This is a jumper that I have worn a lot ever since I knitted it. It is a pattern by Midori Hirose, which I always say wrong, but it is one of my favourite patterns and one of my favourite garments. I knitted this one using Railwork DK, which is a very special yarn to me. It's super lofty, and it's lasted really well. I did give it a little brush today, which is the first time I've ever done so. It peels quite a bit, but I think if I was more worried about that, I could do it more frequently and by now it would have stopped. But I love this fabric and I love this jumper. I'm having a cozy day, as you might be able to tell, so I'm all snuggled in today. It's been a really weird weather lately. Really appreciating that the plants have had some rain over here, but it's been a little bit muggy. It's not been all that warm, but muggy when it has been warm, and every time you think you're safe to go out and not get rained on, there's a torrential downpour, even a bit of thunder. So that's a strange introduction, but if you're new here, it's lovely to see you and meet you. If you've been here for a while, it's really lovely to sit down with you again. Yeah, what a time to be alive. I think it's going to be another one of those weeks where I'm a little bit all over the shop. I'm recording a bit early. I actually only have water with me today, which is unusual, but I've had a pint of tea. And I thought I would record nice and early again. I've got so many things I'd like to do today, and I didn't want to miss out on the opportunity to chat this week, so I thought I would do it bright and early and then I can go through the rest of my day, you know. So the first project I just wanted to share quickly, now it's finished, before it goes on its adventure up to Northumberland. This is my spring intentions, which is for the Whistlebear studio in Northumberland. And yeah, I'm gonna be a bit sad to see this go, just because I've spent 8 weeks with the project, but I'm really excited for it to see a new home, and hopefully if anyone visits over, the summer or the next few years, you'll get to see it too, and it'll be a bit like, I've been there with you. So yeah, there's quite a few of these wraps now being finished, and it's really cool to see, not because it was really cool to see them in the process, but now it's quite nice to see them being worn out and about and part of wardrobes. I've still been wearing mine because the weather over here has been completely up and down, so it definitely feels like an almost year-round staple, because although it's quite big in the way it can cover you, like you can use it as a blanket on your lap with no issue, but it folds down fairly small, so I feel like it's quite a good one for all year, just putting it in the bottom or on the top of a tote bag, even a rucksack, and good to go. I like to be prepared for all weather because we live in the UK and it is incredibly unpredictable. So that's the spring intentions. That really was a lot of fun. I've had some really nice feedback about not just the pattern, because it was, if you don't know, it was a knit along where I sent out a section of the pattern once a week, and alongside it I sent out some guides and practices that I use, some information that I use, anything from recipes through to you know, apps I use and things. It was it was a lot of fun to put together, and the feedback was good, so it might be that I feel comfortable enough to do something similar again somewhere down the line. So that should be really fun. So thank you. I have ish finished object. Let's show you these quickly. So if you've been here for a while, I recently picked up roller skating, and my skates already, even though I'm not skating as much as I would really like to be, are getting a bit worn, the toes in particular, and it's quite common to wear a toe cap. So I followed a pattern and made these, but these are crochet and the yarn is really fun. It's not something that I would ever usually knit with, but since it was for toe guards, I kind of felt like I'd need to replace them frequently, but the mohair being as slick as it is, I thought that might help with the friction, maybe even a bit of felting, and there's nylon in the yarn that I held with it. And this is Dinah's Home of Crafts in, I can't remember, it's something about sunglasses colourway, and it is really bright. But I don't know, I didn't really like the look of them. I will link the pattern. I don't know, they're probably dense and gonna work, but I didn't like them. So I made a pair myself. Now this looks absolutely ridiculous, not on a skate, so I will put a picture up. And yeah, so this goes around the toe stop. It's nice and small, and this is where the laces go through. It sits nice and snug, nice and tight, and I much prefer how they look on the boot. So I've written this up, and I will do another, just pop it on Ko-Fi, but I might do a how I knit it, just do a video maybe next week. It'll be a nice little break where we can sit and chat and have a little tiny finished object for a really niche purpose fairly quickly. I knit these, all of these in less than an afternoon, so yeah, they're quite handy for a very specific purpose. So if you're looking for something, obviously they're not going to be as hard wearing as something like leather, but I like that I can replace these quite frequently. And I did get a pair of off-cut fake leather ones, but they're too thick for under my toe stop, and I don't like the toe stop sticking down too close to the ground. So they didn't work for me, so these are much more practical. But I will be knitting myself a slightly less bright version. I just was happy to use these bits, you know. So yeah, that's a finished object that's slightly niche, but I think it will be quite handy to keep my skates nice. I don't want to have to replace them ever, really. They're quite nice skates, and it would be a shame to put wear on them when they don't need to. And yeah, it's going to be a fairly speedy episode, I think, this week. I have done a little bit more crochet, and I'll try and put in over while I'm talking. But when these I finished a little while ago, but when I did them, I kind of did feel the urge to crochet again. And we've had a bath mat for many years, maybe 5 years, or a rug that we used as a bath mat. I'm not sure how frequently they are. It's like one of the rag rugs. And it was really seeing where Audrey really liked to play with the loose tassels, and because of that, it just started exploding. Not literally, that would have been very weird. So last week, I think it was Thursday, I kind of got inspired and decided to take out all the rag. I washed it, let it dry as much as I could, and then decided that I would crochet it using another bit of yarn that I've had in the house for years. It was like it's not really yarn, it's a bit of jersey, but really stretchy. I tried a few techniques. I was going to do it a rectangle, so I was going to do almost like a half double crochet chain, like a chain, half double crochet, and just keep going backwards and forwards until I had finished. But straight away I didn't like how it looked. It just didn't feel right. So then I tried to use a crochet thread, cotton, to crochet it together. So I was holding the thicker fabric that I already had and using another thread to encase it. But it was really loose, so I think I would have needed to use a much smaller needle size, and it wouldn't have been the speedy get this repurposed project that I'd hoped, and I wasn't prepared to spend a couple of weeks making a bath mat. I just it wasn't going to happen. So I then tried just single crochet, going backwards and forwards in a square, and again that it just didn't, I was worried that I wasn't going to have enough and it would have been difficult to add to, so I opted to do a magic circle, which is really easy to do if you've never done one. I highly recommend it instead of doing chains. Obviously it depends how you want your knitting to be, but I like that you could pull it quite tight. So you do a loop, and then you can pull up the centre really tightly, so it gives a really nice finish. Anyway, and then I opted to just randomly pick colours and then use the jersey material interspersed, and did a sort of just a circle using half double crochet all the way around, and it gave a nice dense fabric. It will be easy to add to, so I'm hoping that over the next few weeks, few months, I can then add to it, make it a bigger rug. But for now we've got a rug that works, that doesn't slide around and doesn't make little Audrey play with the bath mat. Audrey is actually not here today. She is upstairs snuggled down in Alex's hoodie. I went upstairs just before I started recording and she was just there all snuggled down, and I couldn't even bear to tell her that there was maybe dreamies down here so that she would come here. She's tucked up. Audrey is the in-house mascot. If you don't know her, she is a sweet little kitten, and I will try and put some more footage of her at the end. Oh, yeah, I am speaking fairly quickly. I don't know. Yeah, so the last finished object I had, because that bath mat was really fun to finish quickly, and I quite enjoyed working with an 8mm hook. Backwards and forwardsing again, sorry. I opted to knit something at a much looser gauge than I normally do, much bigger needle than I usually do. I opted to knit something with a 10mm needle. Doesn't happen very often, but I'm really happy. So this is the outcome, and I knitted this in, it was like 7 hours or something. I'm so chuffed. So this is the yarn that Alex dyed. He used natural dyes. I might have to over dye it in the not too distant future. It depends on how it lasts. I know that the blue on Alex's t-shirt didn't last very well, but I won't be upset. I'm quite excited at the prospect of it maybe being almost a wash in wash out jumper. I think he's done a beautiful job on the colours. So this green was dyed using Mexican tarragon, and I think this was the exhaust bath, or the second bath, with a dash of red onion skin, I want to say. And then this one was red cabbage with bicarb, I believe, maybe vinegar. I think it's bicarb. But yeah, this is a sort of modified version of the Vapu, which I'll put a link in the description. I try and always put the links in there. If I don't, do feel free to hassle me. But this is the closest-ish I've ever knitted to the pattern. I've knitted a couple at a much tighter gauge. I am realising I do like fitted things, but I also am very drawn to things that have a very relaxed fit, but I much prefer it when they don't have arms that start on my waist. So this is quite good. I did add 2 rows, so it's a little bit deeper here, but I knew that I wanted slightly arms that came in a bit. In the pattern they sit flat, so I've adjusted that slightly. And I really love the fit of this. It still smells a bit like Mexican Tarragon more than anything. But yeah, I'm really happy. This was a gift from Maud again. Thank you so much. And it's this Fonty yarn, which I think's mohair and polyamide, which, yeah. Oh no, yes, it is, but it's also got wool in there instead of 25% nylon, so that's quite, you know, that's good. But it took the dye really lovely, and it feels good. It's not, it's definitely not the softest, but for me this is perfect against skin. I was wearing it with the Jessie May's framework bralette that Alex dyed for me using the red onion skin. Yeah, so it matches this really well against the skin, and it felt great. This is going to be a very usable thing for me, I think, with the addition of roller skating in my life, but even for shows, and you know, when you go on walks and you know that you're going to want a jumper but you don't want to carry anything big, like this will shrink down into nothing. I'm not going to be that cruel to it on YouTube, but it will get abused a bit, but it will also get worn quite a lot, I think. I can't believe how much fun I had knitting a project like this, because I've recently haven't been loving doing just stockinette, but this, I think it was a bit instant gratification, but using Alex's dyed yarn made it a bit more special again. And then obviously the colour changes and deciding where they went kept my interest quite well. But it was really nice to see Alex's face when I was like, hey, do you like my jumper? And he's like, oh yeah, it's lovely. And I was like, it's the yarn you dyed. And it is fun to see projects being made that you've played a part in but you haven't knitted. So I understand how Alex feels now, like, yeah. So I'm really happy with this, and we'll probably put it on again later today, because the sun's come out and it's maybe not, woolly trousers aren't necessary right now. Hopefully, we'll see. It's another waffly one. I'm sorry. So I only worked on these yesterday evening, but these are from the 52 Weeks of Socks book, which I still, every time I look at it, I think of the Ko-Fi support. I can't believe I own it. It really blows me away that, you know, people help and want to support me, my little knitting journey, and I hope that by doing it I can continue to share useful things. This is the second time I've knitted this pattern, so maybe it's not all that useful in that I'm just telling you about the same pattern, but hopefully it is. So I'm knitting the elf slippers. I knitted and finished one, and I should have put it back on a blocker because it does look a bit ridiculous not. But they are gorgeous slippers. They should be knit in 4-ply yarn. I've opted to use DK yarn. I did the first pair using DK and mohair held together, and then went down a needle size, and that worked out really well. So I've stuck with those needles. I'm a bit of a loose knitter, but I also wanted to kind of negate the increase in thickness of yarn, if that makes sense. So by going down, it seems to be the sweet spot for me. They fit perfectly. And so these are the yarn that Alex and I had spun. It's 50% Ballet Black Nose and 50% Jacob. I think there's a tiny bit of these in our Ko-Fi, but predominantly there's only the cream left, which I think I'm going to ask Alex if he might naturally dye something for me. Hi Alex! He's actually got a pot of dyer's weed bubbling away in the background, which you might be able to hear. So maybe that's what I will be hassling him to do. But I've got this far, so I really don't have very much left. I mean, I'm over halfway. I'm about to do the decreases for the toe. I love the way it's finished. This yarn is slubby, so it's thick and thin, so it doesn't. I'm happy with the colour work, but I know that some people this is not crisp enough. But yeah, so I know I got asked about that someone has the book but wasn't sure about how the pattern worked. I think you'd already started knitting it. So you knit the heel and put stitches on hold. You can use waste yarn. I opt to use a stitch holder because then I can knit slip stitches over a lot speedier, a lot easier than not. So you knit the heel, you've got it here, put half the stitches on hold, and then you cast on stitches. So you cast on these ones and then you start knitting in the round. So that becomes your opening here, and then you knit down, knit the toe, bind off, and then do a little bit of finishing. It is fairly simple. It should be, well, I hope that helps. It should be fairly, hopefully clear for you to see now. Yeah, I'm really excited to get these done. I've been trying not to rush, and I realised it's because I didn't want to get rid of my slippers that I was gifted, but it really is time. So I might finish this off today after I've recorded, maybe whilst I'm editing. Very happy with them. They feel so good. It's like sturdy but buttery all at the same time. And then I have one other whip that I want to share with you, if you would like to hear it. This bag, I was asked last week when I shared it, but didn't say who it was by. This is actually made for me by Maggie of the Sonder Knitting and Reading podcast, and if you don't know Maggie, she's amazing. She is a lot more informative than I am, but has an amazing energy that brings me a lot of joy when I sit down with her to knit. So yeah, I love this bag. It does come with me a lot of places because it's very sturdy. And then living in it is another lovely gift. So this is some Newton from Mary, and I still weep when I see things like this that I've been gifted. I can't talk about it very easily. And then this one is from Maud, so this is all very kind gifts. This one is an alpaca silk from Drops, and this is Newton that I can never remember the name of the lovely couple that make it, but it is made by two people, and it is a pencil roving, so it's completely unspun and super lightweight. But I recently knitted a hat which I wear almost all the time, and I knitted this one using 2 strands of Newton held together. It's an improvised hat, but I just love this style of hat. It's very comfortable, it's incredibly lightweight, which you'd have thought, oh, what have I been doing? Oh dear. Yep, that's me. It's really warm, but it's also been wearable on the hotter days because I guess it's because it is lightweight. I'm not sure, but I've been able to wear it basically all the time. But Alex keeps borrowing it, and he looks really good in this colour. It seems to be the colour that would literally look good on anyone and seems to go with everything, like everything. So I decided to cast on one, and I won't say necessarily for Alex, because any hat that we have is for either of us really. There's a few that I wear more than him or vice versa. So I weighed the hat and there was just not enough to do two. And I could have done maybe most of it, held double and then changed, but I thought rather than risk it, I can do a slightly longer one, because I know that Alex likes a bit more coverage than I have actually seemed to be wearing the bigger hats more recently, but anyway, he likes a bit more, so I'm going to do it a bit longer, and I might do this one all in rib. But I'm loving the fabric again. It almost felt a shame initially that it might cover up the beauty of the knitted and the alpaca, but actually I think it just adds to it. They've come together beautifully. I love the fabric that it's creating. You can tell I'm a loosey-goosey knitter. I'm not knitting the tightest on this one. But yeah, another improvised hat. There's no pattern for it. I might make notes for it, but there's enough free beanie patterns out there, I think. But yeah, I'm so used to just doing them that I just make it up as I go along, and so far so good. But I really love this fabric. I can't get over how nice the knitted in is to work with. Even held on its own it was really nice, but when you hold it with itself it's something else. And then I really didn't expect to love knitting it with another yarn, especially, you know, it's a bit brighter, but it just comes together beautifully. It's definitely, you know, it's definitely taking on the brightness of the alpaca, but I still think it's going to be a very wearable hat. So yeah, and the last thing I kind of wanted to speak about is I got sent some, I'm just very grateful, and I know I say it all the time, but it really doesn't mean any less. Ko-fi makes such a big difference, and I really can't express that. So this came through the post, and I wanted to ask, because I think this jumper is going to be worn so much. These yarns would be perfect for tops to go underneath, but then maybe it should be a shawl. So I was sent these yarns, and just look at them. They are a Romney and Merino blend, naturally dyed in Hudson Valley. So this one is dyed with indigo and this one with marigold, and look at them. So this was sent to me by Forage and Sew, who is Jenny, and I just, my heart. Jenny found a carding and spinning mill in upstate New York that is dedicated as she is to sourcing and producing natural dye products and supporting small farmers, and it is 100% naturally dyed and spun in the US. And yeah, these colours, I felt like, oh, maybe I'll do a colourwork t-shirt, but I'm not 100% a t-shirt person when it comes to woolly, but I feel like I might do some maybe slightly looser tank tops, maybe racer back, maybe just strappy, but if anyone has any lovely summer patterns, top patterns, maybe 1 skein or 2 skein projects, I'd be really happy to hear about them. We do have a summer and spring knits thread in our Discord group, which there's a link as well for that. So I might have a little browse through there too, but I know that every time I've asked, I've had an amazing amount of patterns that I've never seen, and I think that, you know, I would like to support designers that are independent too, and slightly lesser known. So yeah, if you've got any ideas for these, I'm all ears, but I do just think it would be perfect with this as like summer, and these colours in particular go with the blue linen trousers that I wear all summer long. I also wear my grey ones all summer long too, but I don't wear the blue ones really until spring and summer. It has been too wet to wear them because they're slightly baggier. Anyone that grew up when I did and liked the big baggy jeans thing, but maybe grew up as short as I did, will know how much of an issue it is when it rains, when the water soaks in and you're wet up until your knees at least, just because you're dragging in the water. Anyway, like that, so I don't wear them in the winter, in the summer, in the winter. So yeah, naturally dyed yarn is just something else, isn't it? And yeah, I'm sorry it's been such a strange few weeks. It's really nice that so many have stuck around to sit and chat. I'm ever so grateful, I really am, that this is something that I get to do week in, week out, and brings me so much joy. It really does. Anyway, I am gonna stop just gushing and waffling, but like I said, it's been really, really nice to sit down again and share what I've been up to. It didn't feel like I'd done very much, and then I started talking and it's come out. I hope I've been, again, I always hope I try and be a bit useful on sharing things that are useful and informative, but I'm also aware that, like I say, I get quite excited or distracted by my own thoughts and then don't share. So if you do ever have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. And yeah, I hope you're having a lovely week. I hope that you take some time for yourself. I hope that as the world is starting to shift again, that you manage to retain a sense of balance or find a new sense of balance, because that is definitely an ever-changing journey and changes from week to week, day to day now. And beforehand, balance is always a work in progress. I have been taking a bit less time on screen time, but I'm hoping that I've got a few things in the progress at the moment that I would like to get done, and then I can start spending a bit more time in the knit night groups and being a bit more active on Instagram and things like that, sharing what I'm up to. Yeah, have some information about my life. Anyway, like I said, it's really nice to see you again. Don't forget to love each other.